Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Wednesday to y'all. This is the day that the Lord has made. We're rejoicing, we're glad in it. I tell you, it is a beautiful morning out here. The weather's just going to be awesome. You know, as the weather gets warmer, there's more people that come out here on the tracks. And it's just beautiful to see, getting their exercise in, getting their vitamin D in. You know, I saw on the news yesterday, it said people need more vitamin D, and usually they take it through these capsules and supplements, and too much of that can be too bad. But they do recommend, if you can get out in the sun and walk and get it naturally. But anyway, I didn't come to talk about vitamin D, but I do have a gym nugget for today. In my prayer time, and then I was reading our daily bread, and you know, it was talking about Samuel. When Samuel was a child and God gave him back to the Lord, he was under the mentoring of a priest called Eli, and the story is told about, you know, how God spoke to him. But at first Samuel didn't know God's voice, and one night he heard a voice call him, Samuel, Samuel. He jumped up 2 times, and a lot of you know the story, and he thought Eli had called him, but it wasn't Eli, it was God. But he didn't recognize God's voice, and so Eli had to finally tell him, the next time you hear the voice, you know, just tell him, you know, Lord, here am I, and then use me. And we know the rest of that story. And I started to think about the fact is that we need to know God's voice. And I'm going to add something to it, and telephone number. Because there was also a story in our daily bread, the man was telling about how usually, and you've gotten these calls too, you look at the call ID, the phone rings, and if the number says unavailable or unknown number, and if you're like me, you ain't gonna answer it, because if you don't know the number, I'm not gonna answer it, because you know it's gonna be a telemarketer, somebody you don't want to talk to. But now there's a few of them, you know, scammers and hackers and stuff. They've gotten so smart now. Somehow they'll put a name up there that you might know. And I've done it a few times. I said, oh, that's so-and-so, and I answer it. Then it ends up being a telemarketer. But I know the voice. So again, I just hang up on it. I mean, it might be rude, but y'all know y'all do that too, because you just don't want to be bothered. But it's very important that you know God's voice and the way that he accesses you, you know. And that's what my gym nugget is today. I want you to know the messenger's voice and telephone number. The way that he tries to get to, especially the enemy. And God, he tries to reach you several ways. Sometimes he speaks through other people. Sometimes he speaks through the word, and he speaks to you through even praying. But you need to know for yourself. John 10, 4-5 says, talking about the shepherd now, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him, because they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him, from the stranger, because they do not recognize the stranger's voice. We as his sheep. And when I saw that first part where the shepherd goes on before, and I even think about, as we have celebrated resurrection, he's gone on. Jesus in the physical has gone on, but we should know his voice, you know, and we follow that voice. But if it's not, well, you know how people say, you know, something told me this or something told me that. I say you better know who that something is, or what that something is. You need to know, you know. So You need to know the voice. Now, if it's the voice of God, you follow him. How do I know the voice of God? That's a good question, and I'm going to give you an answer. The way that you know the voice of God, it's going to require that you also study the Word. If what the voice is saying doesn't line up with what God says in his Word, that's not the right voice. You need to not listen. And as a matter of fact, as this verse 5 says, you need to run. You need to run, like from the movie. Run, Forrest, run. You need to run, because if it's not the right voice, if it's not lining up with what the Word of God says, you need to run. And if they're coming through the telephone, you might need to block the number. That's what I said. Know the messenger's voice and know his telephone number. Because, that's like I always think about what the Word says. The power of life and death is in the power of the tongue. You can be, up and be positive and happy, and you get that one word that'll just bring you down. So you need to know the messenger's voice and his telephone number. Because the man was saying in the story today, and this has never happened to me, he said, I usually don't answer the calls when it said unknown number, unavailable, but this particular time I answered it, and someone prayed for him. They didn't ask him for nothing. They said, can I pray with you? He said, I've never got a call like that, and I've never got a call like that either. But it would be wonderful if one of those times that I did decide to pick up the phone when it said unavailable, that there was someone that would pray. That's very unusual. But that's my nugget. Know the messenger's voice and telephone number. I'm walking, and later on I'll go in and I'll have me a little breakfast. I taught last night, Church School Live, that Jesus cooks breakfast. If you didn't hear that, go back and listen to it. After he had been resurrected and he wanted to sit down and dine, and he had Simon and them to catch the fish, but he didn't wait for the fish to be caught. He already had breakfast for them on the river shore. I'm still hungry from that. Now I know when I get back, I don't think my husband gonna have no fried fish and all of that for breakfast. Now if I had asked him, he probably would have. But Jesus cooked breakfast because he wanted the opportunity to feed their bodies as well as their souls, to get them prepared for the mission. Go back and check that out. But for today, I just want you to know, you need to know the messenger's voice. And his telephone number. Bye.